Howdy y'all, Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader, and it snowed a little bit outside. It doesn't look like it's too terribly, frigid. We only got like a dusting of snow, but it's 16 degrees outside right now, so you can't really garden whenever it's that cold. And I know that many of you across the country are experiencing temperatures that are drastically colder than what we are experiencing here in North Texas. So I kind of wanted to give you guys a little task list of stuff that you can do in the winter time to help you prepare for your best spring and summer garden ever. So I'm going to film the rest of this video indoors where the heat is on and I can kind of stretch out and be a little bit more comfortable because as I was saying, outside in the frigid cold, I wanted to give you guys kind of a task list of stuff that you can do in the cold winter to set yourself up for success whenever it is time to get the spring and summer garden rolling. If you would like a written version of this task list, I actually do have an article published on the Vigo Garden website. I do have all of my articles linked below, so you can go check that out. It's just like a 4-minute read, much shorter than what this video is going to end up being, I'm sure. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let me kind of center myself there. Okay, so I'm going to use my article as reference to kind of keep in order, because if you've watched any number of my videos, you kind of know that I tend to see squirrels and get distracted and go off on tangents a little bit. So in my best effort to kind of keep this on track, I'm going to follow the order of my article, and like I was saying, you can reference that as well if you just want like a written version really quickly. So the first thing that you can sit down and work on is creating your spring garden plan. Now, I just published a video about how I am planning my 2024 spring and summer garden. I will link that up here for you guys so that you can go watch it if you kind of need help figuring out how to do that. So essentially what that means is you're going to go on Google or like the Farmer's Almanac website, any good garden reference, and you're going to type in last average frost date for your zip code. So the last average frost date is going to be the date in the year that the last frost usually happens around, and it's going to be early to late spring, depending on where you're at. So for me, I'm in North Texas, so our warmer temperatures come pretty quickly. Last average frost date is around March the 18th. Once you have that, then you can start to sit down and plan out when you need to start your seeds indoors, if you're going to do that, when you can start planting things outside, when you can start transplanting, all of those things. So just as a quick reference, peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, those plants, if you start them indoors, they need to be started 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. That's what is recommended on the seed packets. It's what is recommended on several gardening websites, the Farmer's Almanac website. I refer to that a lot whenever I just need some quick information. So you will essentially take that frost date, so mine is March 18th, and I'm going to count backwards, and that's going to put me end of January, very beginning of February, for those 6 to 8 weeks time frame. Now, I did start some things a little bit earlier just to give myself a little bit of wiggle room in case there is like issues growing or germinating, or we have a bad storm and we lose power and I'm not able to keep things warm enough. Whatever the issue is, I kind of want to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So I did start some things earlier than that. You don't have to do that. That's what I do. That's what works for me. But you know, it is good to go ahead and sit down and create that garden plan. Just kind of work backwards from that frost date. Make yourself a list of the things that you would like to grow in terms of your garden. So every year I am for sure going to grow peppers, tomatoes, okra, basil, for sure, marigolds, zinnias, nasturtium, calendula. Every year without fault, those are going in my garden no matter what. So I am always going to put those on my garden schedule, my garden plan, and then I'm going to also include sunflowers and dill and some other herbs and some other flowers to help the pollinators and to help bring in some of the predator bugs that are going to wipe out some of the pest issues that we may encounter. So once you have that list and you kind of have your schedule worked out, you know, 6 to 8 weeks, whatever, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, some stuff you're going to direct sow outside after that average frost date. Keep in mind that is average frost date, last frost date. It's not a guarantee. Now, here in Texas, we like to joke that around Easter, it's going to get really cold again and you will see people out, you know, hurriedly trying to protect their tomato plants. It is a risk. Average last frost date does not mean that it is the absolute date that the last frost is going to come, that is going to happen. Our last frost could happen in February. It could be the last frost now that we're experiencing outside. It's really hard to say. That's why it's average. So just keep in mind that a lot of the things that are direct sown, you're going to want to make sure that your soil temp is like at least 40-45 degrees, and in your 10-day forecast there isn't any concern about a frost coming in. Wow, I'm really struggling to complete sentences today, my apologies. So that's just something to keep in mind whenever you are creating out your planting schedule and your garden plan and stuff, kind of accounting for, okay, we might have to keep these seedlings inside a little bit longer, or we might have to actually push off direct sowing some of these things for another week or two. Here in North Texas, we have a very long growing season, so if we have a later than expected frost, it's not that big a deal for us because the season lasts so long. The only thing that it might affect is tomatoes, because once it gets too hot, which it does here very quickly, then the tomatoes won't produce again until it cools back down. But anyway, once you kind of have like the bare bones of your garden plan, you know what you're gonna plant, you kind of know the time frame that you're gonna start it inside or direct sow it outside, then you can move on to the more fun part of garden planning, which is obtaining your seeds. I have a Google document with my entire seed inventory in it, and then I'll just flip through my binders just to make sure that everything that's on the inventory is reflected, everything that's in the binders is reflected within my seed inventory, and I don't need to remove anything from the inventory or add anything to it. And then you get to do the super fun part, which is shopping. So if you are a person who likes to sow the seeds, whether you start them inside or direct sow them outdoors, and you don't want to necessarily go to the big box stores and get like started plants or anything like that, you can go to a lot of the seed company websites and request a catalog, and there are a lot of really good reputable companies out there that you can get really good high quality seeds from. This isn't an exhaustive list, so please don't take this to mean that this is the only places that I shop from, because it's not. But some of the catalogs that I have received this year are Botanical Interests, and you can see I've kind of marked some things that I have hopes to purchase. Pine Tree Garden Seeds. This company is up in Maine. Botanical Interest, this was recently purchased or bought by Kevin from Epic Gardening. He's doing some really great things over on his channel. And then now he owns this wonderful company that's been around for years. The seed packets from this company come with a metric ton of free information for you. So if you got like a pack of tomato seeds from them, on the entire inside of the packet, they're going to give you all kinds of growing information about the plant. They're going to show you what the seedling looks like. The art on the packets is really beautiful. It's all around a great company to purchase seeds from, and you can get a catalog from them for free. Pine Tree Garden Seeds, I've had really good luck with their seeds as well. Their catalog includes pictures of the actual crops, so you can kind of see, you know, what that plant is going to look like. And then my favorite catalog that I have spent hours poring over each season is the Baker Creek catalog. This is the purchased version. It's $10 if you pre-order it in the fall, but it's well worth the $10 because it is essentially like a gardening book, because you're going to get plant information, you're going to get historical information about like the discovery of some heirloom seed that they're offering. You're going to get information about gardeners based all over the world that grow seeds for them. There's recipes in here. It is a beautiful, beautiful seed catalog. I mean, look at this tomato. I actually grow this tomato. It makes my top 10 every year because it's awesome. That's the Sart Roloise. They have beautiful, beautiful varieties that you're just not going to be able to go down to your box store and get seeds for. So definitely a catalog worth picking up. And like I said, that's not an exhaustive list. That's what I have on hand right now. That's what I've received. You can go to a lot of other seed companies' websites and request catalogs. There are some companies that only provide digital versions because they are trying to be more eco-friendly. Like In My Gardener has a digital version. That's fantastic. He also has an app, so you can download the app and then just, you know, peruse the catalog from your phone. So, you know, there's lots of options out there to procure the seeds that you're wanting. If you are gardening on a mega budget, I get it, I'm gardening on a mega budget this year. Instead of trying to buy each and every seed packet that you may want, look for seed swaps in your area. Check with your local library, check around in local gardening groups. I mean, even ask around at like the post office, or if you go to like a Tractor Supply or a local feed store or something, check around. There's going to be lots of seed swaps happening this time, or a little bit, probably February, March in North Texas is whenever there's a lot of seed swaps around. Go to those seed swaps. Take seeds that you have a lot of, or maybe something that you tried and you didn't necessarily like, but maybe other people may want to grow it. Swap them out for something that you are looking for. Join online like Facebook groups. There's one that I'm in that has 2 swaps a year, and it's a really big deal. I got like 62 new varieties or something last year. It was insane of stuff to grow in my garden this year. So there's lots of seed swap resources out there. You can also check your local library to see if they have a seed library. My local library does not yet, but whenever I spoke to them, they said it is something that they are talking about doing. So check with your local library, see if they have a seed library that you can, you know, pilfer through and see if there's anything that you want. Pilfer, probably not the right word, but you know, you and your friends can go in on an order together and then just kind of divide everything up evenly, or you can talk to like your local, if you know like a local farmer, ask him or her, I'm just not trying to be gender specific here, ask them if they're growing any of the plants that you're interested in, and see if you can get a started plant from them if they have any extras to sell for, you know, an inexpensive amount. A lot of times those small farmers will be able to sell you new and interesting varieties to you that you can't go down to your, your gardening center to purchase. So there's definitely a lot of ways to procure interesting seeds and plants without having to break the bank with the seed catalogs. But just, dig in, do some research, read the catalogs. It's a great way to spend a 16-degree day. And then while you're waiting for those seeds to come in the mail, or you're waiting for words are so hard today. Or you're waiting for it to get a little bit closer to your seed starting time, now is the time to read up on those gardening books, watch those gardening videos, search for classes through like your local agriculture extension or local gardening centers, or check with your master gardeners, see if they're hosting any classes. You can also read books, check them out from the library. I have 2 local libraries that I have library cards for. They also have like digital access to Libby and Hoopla and Cloud Library, so you might even be able to check out digital versions of gardening books. These are going, again, not an all-inclusive list. I literally just went to the top shelf up here and pulled down some of my favorites. I have many more books than this. This is just an idea of stuff that you can read in the cold months while you're waiting to be able to get your hands into the soil. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is actually this one, First Time Gardeners Growing Vegetables by Jessica Sowards of Roots and Refuge Farm. Excuse me. This is such a fantastic resource, whether you are a beginning gardener or you've been gardening for decades. There is a plethora of knowledge in here. The photographs are beautiful. They're from her actual garden, so she's not just like feeding you words without being able to back it up. So some noodle beans from her garden. This is an absolute gem of a resource. This is essentially like gardening 101. You plant the seed in the soil, this is what happens in the soil, this is what happens with the seed, and then you have the plant, and this is what you do with the plant. I mean, this breaks it down really well for you. Another one that does a great job of breaking down gardening, if you are trying to grow a lot of food for your family without having to rely on the grocery stores or anything like that, the Family Garden Plan by Melissa K. Norris. That's a great resource that I recommend checking out. It's going to explain, again, a lot of the food growing science, but also kind of how to keep that organized and plan out larger amounts. So if you're trying to grow all of your family's tomato supply for salsa, pizza sauce, tomato sauce, all of those things that require tomatoes, a canned version of tomatoes, she kind of breaks that down for you into kind of how much you may want to consider growing. Now every family is different, so don't take her exact amounts as gospel. She gives them to you as an example and a framework so you can turn that into your own family garden plan. Luke Marion from In My Gardener, he has a book called The Autopotty Garden. That's what you meant, Luke, right? Okay, no. The Autopilot Garden. So he really does a good job of breaking down the soil science, what your soil needs to look like in order for you to produce the healthiest plants and the most productive garden. He's going to tell you step by step what you need to do to get the optimal soil. He does a fantastic job. He has a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers, if that gives you any idea into how reliable he kind of is in the gardening world. You can also go check out all of his videos to see how to grow anything from lettuce to tomatoes to melons to microgreens inside a greenhouse. I mean, he breaks it all down and he does a great job. Now, if you love tomatoes as much as I do, Epic Tomatoes is a great resource. You can tell by all the tabs I have marked on the inside. It's going to talk about how to grow heirloom varieties of tomatoes, and there's every gardener kind of has their preference, whether they want to grow heirloom tomatoes for like the beauty aspect, or they want to grow a hybrid variety for like the productive aspect. I'm kind of in the middle. I understand why you would want to grow both varieties. This book breaks down how to grow both varieties. It also lists some of his favorite varieties that he's grown over the years. It gives different recipes for how to use those tomatoes once they do start rolling in. It's a great how-to resource in terms of just growing tomatoes. The last one is for like medicinal herb gardening. If you want to kind of take your healthcare into your own hands and try to grow some of those medicinal herbs, this book is going to be one of the good places to start, and it's called The Medicinal Gardening Handbook by Dee Dee Cummings and Alyssa Holmes. And it I have dog-eared a lot of pages. That's really unfortunate. But it kind of tells you different herbs that you can grow in your own garden, what they're used for, and then the way that you're going to process them. So if you're not familiar with like growing a medicinal garden, after you harvest the herbs, you can drink them in a tea, you can make a tincture, you can do a lot of different things with those herbs to get the most medicinal punch out of them. This book kind of breaks that down for you. So in the gardening off season, you can plan your garden, you can procure those seeds, you can learn how to grow your garden, but there are a couple of outside tasks that you can do as well. Not today when there's snow on the ground, or if you're in an area that is covered in ice or snow. These things probably won't apply at the moment, but as it kind of starts to thaw out, there are some things that you can do to get your garden beds ready. So the first thing that you can do in the wintertime, as the ground allows you to, don't get rid of your leaves. A lot of people will bag them up and ship them off to wherever they, whenever the trash companies come to pick them up, I don't know where they go, composting center or what have you. You don't have to do that. There are a lot of beneficial insects that live under those leaves over the winter, so you're providing a habitat by leaving the leaves there. What you can do to kind of make them a little more, a little less unsightly is you can use your blower or a rake to put them into your garden over your garden rows. If like me, you have raised bed gardens, you'll have to, use a rake and a shovel to kind of lift them into there, but the leaves are going to again provide that habitat for those beneficial insects, those native insects that are native to your area. That's kind of where they're hanging out over the winter. The leaves will also break down over time and contribute to the overall soil health. And then for the moment, while you're waiting for spring and summer to arrive, they will also act as a mulch to kind of protect that top layer of soil from erosion, and also insulate your plant's roots a little bit, especially if you're in a much colder area. And then as it gets warmer, you can that's whenever you'll start to do your soil amendments. So you're going to add compost to your garden spaces, fertilizers, all of those things. You don't have to do that right before you're going to plant. You can do that while it's wintertime and allow any like not completely aged compost to break down a little bit over the winter months. It's going to help the soil retain moisture and not leach out any nutrients that it may have, and things like that. And then if you throw it over the leaves once it's closer to spring and it starts to warm up some, it's going to kind of accelerate the leaves breaking down, and then you have really good healthy soil to plant in once you can. As you kind of slowly creep closer to spring, then you get to actually put your hands in the soil so you can start your seeds. You're gonna follow your gardening schedule, and you can start your seeds indoors or outdoors. So there's a few different methods that you can use for starting your seeds. Probably the most economically efficient is the milk jug sowing. All you need for that is empty and clean milk jugs and soil. I don't haven't done much research on this, but from what I understand, you kind of cut the milk jug in half horizontally, fill it with soil, plant your seeds, and then you kind of reattach that top back on. So that is going to create, it's essentially going to create a little mini greenhouse, because within there it's going to be much warmer than it is outside, and you're going to place that in your, like, the sunniest area of your yard, and then the sun's going to warm up inside of those milk jugs, and then you'll have plants that sprout. As it warms up, you can move them out of the milk jugs. I do indoor seed starting. There's I think there's only two. So my method just uses the trays, and I did clean and sanitize these. My method uses the trays filled with soil into a bottom watering tray on heat mats, and then heat lamps. I turn the heat lamps on once seeds are sprouting. And then the other one is to use a soil blocker. I don't have the soil blocker to show you, but it's essentially like a metal tool. It comes in different sizes, so you could start soil blocks as small as this on up. You know, the smaller it is, the smaller the plant you're going to want to start in that. Otherwise, you're going to be transplanting and uppotting very quickly. But yes, the seed blocks, many different sizes. It's essentially like a metal tool that you stamp down into moist soil to create the block shape, and then you dispense it into your tray, plant the seeds in it, and then, you know, as those seeds grow, you kind of move them up into pots. I hear it's economically friendly because you're not needing as many seed starting supplies. The soil blocker will last you for many, many years. I have not tried it. It's something that's on my to-do list in the future to try, but I haven't gotten there yet. I hear it's kind of tricky to regulate the moisture levels in them, so I'm a little bit scared, but I do want to try it in the future whenever I have time to sit down and research it and see if that's a route that I actually want to take. But that is essentially the 4 or 5, 6 things that you can do throughout the winter to set yourself up for success for your spring and summer garden. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and please feel free to like and subscribe and comment and all of the YouTube thingies. It really helps me out. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week, and go find a way to get those hands dirty. Bye!